We had a great time here at 10 campus in Limpopo, Valwater. It's been wonderful. We had 7 sessions on leadership principles, leadership tactics, skills, and strategies, and also talk about issues of health and well-being here. And now I'm concluding as an old man who's going to give advice to young leaders. I may sometimes sit down and talk to you about that. Now, as a young leader, I remember one young leader in the Bible called Daniel. And I've got 2 verses that I want to read it for you. It says, these were young men, and there was no blemish in them. And they're good looking. Every one of you is good looking here. And you're gifted. I remember the song we used to sing when we were young. Brother Jerry, remember, young, gifted, and black. And you're wise. And you're possessing knowledge now. Do you agree with me? And you're quick to understand. And you have an ability, remember, to serve. We talked about servant leadership. Leadership is not that you be served, but you've got to be serving. In the king's palace, and you've been taught a lot of things. But verse 8 is what I like. I'm just going to the first sentence of it. Because there's something you need to do when you're a young leader. You need to do what Daniel did. The Bible says in verse 8, Daniel purposed in his heart not to defile himself. I'm going to stop there. Just underline those ones. Daniel purposed in his heart that he will not defile himself. It doesn't say Daniel decided or Daniel thought about or Daniel frivolously say, well, you know what, I think I'm not going to defile myself. It says Daniel purposed. There's an element of seriousness and substance in that. He purposed not to defile himself. If there's any last thing that I'm going to say to you today is that purpose in your heart, not to defile yourself. There's too many things that will defile you. Temptations, power in itself corrupts and corrupts absolutely. It can defile you. But purpose in your heart. Do you agree with me? Yes. Do you commit you're going to purpose in your life? Yes. Not to defile yourself. Right. Let's just talk now about young leaders and advice that I'm going to give it to you. Sometimes you're inexperienced, it doesn't matter. And today's time, you will rise very quicker than us. Some of you will be CEOs before you hit the age of 40. You'll be running major companies, especially in the IT world. And you'll deal with great things. And there'll be a lot of expectations over you. And that's fine. And that's why we put organizations like 10 and Unleashing Leadership Potential to give you that head start so that you can actually reach the great heights much more quicker. But there's advice that I want to give it to you. Now, this one is a very good advice that I want to give you. Be aware of the altitude sickness. Because if you go to the top quickly, sometimes you hit the rocks very, very. So be very careful when you get given a huge responsibility. Move slowly. Make sure you are ready. Make sure you're ready. Don't just accept the leadership position because your ego says, hey, you know what, I'm going to look cool. I'm going to the big Makoya here. Be very careful. Be very, very careful. Ensure that you've got a range of skills. And in our company, we call bucket of experience. Got to have a bucket of experience starting with your core function. If you're a researcher like Sia, or you're like Tsepo, you're an IT guy, make sure you fill up that bucket and your depth is very, very deep. But very soon you have a T effect. Write your T like that. Depth, it means your functional experience. T means you need to have now a broad experience that puts you into general leadership positions. Throw a T there and says, T is depth of my functional experience. Depth, that's the T. And the T, the one that goes down this way. This, it gives you breadth. In other words, we use it, you need to have a helicopter view. You need to rise up with a helicopter and be able to see everything underneath. And sure, you've got those range of skills. Not only specialization, but growing. And the third thing is you need to understand that you need to deal with what we call soft skill. In fact, the literature calls it soft skill. I want to call it, you know, when you're doing a project and you're building something and you're functional, it's hard skills. But when you're dealing with people, it's harder skills. So in my book, there is no soft skills and hard skills. It's hard skills when you're dealing with running a business, but when you're dealing with people, it's harder skills. You need to learn that, because I promise you, if you're an engineer, you know the machine, listen to you. You press the button and you expect it to do it, and it does it. When you're dealing with people, they do not operate like that. IsiZulu sithi abantu abayi ngancanye bengamanzi. It means people are not going to go in one way. You have to learn that. So that's an advice I want to give you. That kind of altitude sickness, when you reach the top and you realize that you're getting dizzy now. The second, plan your rise. I told you earlier on that many of my friends, earlier on in their lives, before they are ready for any role, they were just looking for the highest bidder in terms of the jobs. And they moved from one job to another, but they never had substance, and they were found out. And it's painful when you get found out that you don't have substance. So proactively plan your rise, manage your career, If there's anything that I would actually advise to any young person, is to manage your career. If I was speaking to a young person that is sitting next year, what I would ask, a very important question, this is what I'm asking. Young man, do you have your personal vision? Personal vision. Young man or young woman, do you have your personal mission? And if you don't have it now, go and write it down. What is it that you have? Your personal vision that must involve you in terms of your own personal growth. Personal vision that is going to do with your family. Personal vision with your children. Personal vision with your career. And it must be clear. And you must begin with an end in mind. Because if you know where you're going, you know the road to take. But if you do not know where you're going, all the roads will take you anyway. So that's the most important. I tell you, when I was young like you, also had an opportunity like this one. We went on a camp. It was run by the chairman of Wool through that time, Colin Hall. And he gave us time to go and write our own personal mission statement. And I wrote my personal mission statement. I wrote about 10 points there, which included my wife, my family, my career, my spiritual life, what I needed to do. And every now and again I tick it and I check, and I promise you I'm still online. I'm still on track on that, on almost everything that I have done. And it became a moral compass. So I'm advising you to do that. Now, the next one is that because you're going to be successful, tell your neighbor, I'm going to be successful. The question is, must make sure that you you clear when you start the top job that you have. Because what made you to succeed in the last role may not be what is going to make you to succeed in the new role. Are you with me? And that is very important. A lot of people think because I was, successful yesterday, tomorrow I'm going to be successful. It doesn't work like that. The tricks of last time are not working in future. Things change so quickly. So therefore, it's very important that you prepare yourself, you work clear, and be sure what made you to succeed and what will make you to succeed in future. And don't let pressure act on you to immediately act. When you get into a new job, I promise you after this, we've got an MMI program, I told you about that. People change jobs immediately after that. They get promoted. Must make sure that you understand the context of the job, the culture where you are. And don't feel pressured to immediately act. Sometimes you just need to sit down and listen and learn and acclimatize. And then from there, be more deliberate about what you want to do. Now, sometimes we walk into an organization, we want to change it, that's good. You have to change the organization. But you also have to understand that organization will have an impact on you. And it is important, therefore, that you change the organization and improve the organization, but also learn from the organization. I've seen too many leaders walking in and want to change things immediately, just like that. So study the organization, learn about it, and then develop your strategic plan. Don't rush. But at the same time, don't lose your fresh perspective when you are coming into a new organization. One of the biggest value that you have when you are new, and I tell all the new people that don't ever lose your value, there's no walls here. But if there was a wall here, there's a wall here. You see, and you enter this house and there's a crack in that house, in that wall. And it's a tiny crack. When you buy the house and you see the crack, if you don't fix it in the next 3 weeks, you won't see the crack again. Are you with me? Because your eyes will be so used to seeing it that you don't see it again. So what do you find sometimes in organizations, all the people who've been there for 10, 15, 20 years, there's a certain perspective that they have. They can't see some of the obvious things that when you enter as a fresh person, you can see immediately that this we can improve, this we can improve, this we can improve. So I always ask the young people that when they come in and says, don't lose in the first 6 months, just jot down all the things that you think we're not doing right and then how we can improve them. And then in a manner that is very supportive and encouraging and respectful of the heritage and the history and the amazing work the people that you are coming to lead have done, acknowledge them, and then express your new perspective. Integrate into your new organization. Listen. Both of you need to integrate when you're coming to a new organization, particularly if you're coming in, you're parachuted as a leader. I'm talking to you because I know most of you, you're going to be parachuted and right in top, and you'll be finding a lot of people out down there. Integrate with your staff. People will then support you. Start implementing all the changes and new ideas, but make sure you take your people with you. Walk with you. Don't shame them. Don't shame them. Don't come and say, you guys, we've been doing this for so many years. Oh, gee, that's a stupid way of doing that. You're going to be in trouble. They'll set you up. And they'll set you up. And you wouldn't know what hit you in the first place. As a young leader, walk in there and make sure that you value the people that have built the organization. Stick to your role as a senior leader. Sometimes it's very important that you stay at the strategic level. The most dangerous thing that when you come in as a leader, you get into the operations. You must separate your life. Now, most of you are at an operational level, but that's why I'm hitting you with strategy, so that you can immediately know that you got to move from the operational detail that you are involved in and move into strategic. For 2 days, as I said before I came to this camp, we're sitting and looking at each and every individual, from senior managers, vice president, and senior vice president, and then obviously us as executive VP, we're looking at all these guys. These are senior, experienced people. And the determining factor that will make them to sit at the table where we're sitting now to be our successors, the 10 of us who run this company globally, was one single thing that we were checking. Has this guy the ability to move from the operational to strategic? Or this woman, can he move from operational to strategic? His mind, his gray matter, can it move from operational to strategic? Now, most of us get trapped into the operations because we're comfortable there, and we found many of them are comfortable. If you can give them an operational thing to do, they execute operational. But if you say, stop a little bit, just get into a helicopter and look at the horizon and scan it, they just can't. And we've coined this phrase, which has been coined by many other great leaders. You know, you can do something that is wrong very efficiently. So you need to understand. But what we want you in strategic is to do effective things. So write it down. Please know the difference between effectiveness and efficiency. A lot of people can be very efficient while they're, being very, if we decide, let me give you to simplify the strategy. Strategic thinking is that when we stand here, we're deciding we're going to Cape Town or Durban. That's the strategic decision. We take it. Now, where are we going? Going to Durban or Cape Town? We have a strategic session, and then we finally made up take a strategic decision. We're going to Cape Town. That's effectiveness. We've chosen it because of the good reasons we're going to Cape Town. Efficiency is, how do we go to Cape Town? You can go by aeroplane, you can go by car, you can go by road. So a lot of people then get into, no, I want to go by road, because I can fix my car when it gets stuck. So you've got to know, very, very important. I can spend a lot of time on that one. Let's move on. Now, this is a very important mistake and a trap that young leaders go into. They think the organization is theirs. Especially, even if it's your company, it is not yours. It's got shareholders, you're one of the shareholders. What is your mandate is to use your executive power to further your organization's goal, not your personal goal. Have you seen those leaders that project themselves far beyond the organization? And the organization's brand actually subsides and their personal brand goes up. Do not try to further your own goals and your image and profile yourself. Use your executive power wisely. Do not use it to coerce and force people. But let me come back to this one about branding yourself, not your organization. It's extremely dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Whenever you're building a company now, let me tell you, avoid calling it by your name if you can. Are you with me? Americans like to do that. With our culture, it doesn't. Because you know why? The moment it is branded by your name, you are a human being. And human beings do what? Die. And they also do what before they die? Make serious mistakes. And human being by nature just make serious mistakes. And if the entire organization is branded on your name, the same applies with ministries, by the way. Make sure that your ministry stand on its own. When you're a pastor here, just make sure that the ministry is not synonymous with you. It must be bigger than you. Are you with me? And that is what I want to warn you as a young person. Because you know why? Our normal ego drives us. Ego is there. And your job is to manage it all the time as a leader. Speak to your ego all the time. When it wants to raise its head, say, hey, hey, hey. And that's why it's so important. And many leaders fail because they use the organization for their own benefit. And with governance now, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? Trust is the only thing that a currency you have. The currency you have is trust. People need to trust you. As a leader, the currency you have is trust. If they cease to trust you as a leader, when you're running a team, you're running a department, you're running your own NGO, when the people stop trusting you, that's the end of part one. Not going to even say anything further about that. But trust is critical. Trust everyone until they prove themselves that they don't deserve it. Trust people, but check them. Are you with me? And if they don't deserve it, then you remove them very quickly. Now that sounds harsh. But one of the most important decisions you've got to take as leaders is to remove people that cannot be trusted in your organization. And do it humanly. What I mean is that fire them, but fire them with dignity. Are you with me? And that's one of the tough decisions you're going to learn to take as a leader. It's been very painful in my life when I have to fire somebody, but I've done it many a times. But I do it with dignity and make somebody to walk away intact. But that's what you will have to do as a young leader. Listen to people, allow yourself to be influenced, but don't promote gossip in your organization. We call it grapevine. You know, if we've got a leader that is even also an evil leader, an unethical leader, he actually uses the grapevine to spread a rumor in the organization. Are you with me? He'll produce a dubious report, spread a rumor about you or about anybody in an organization. And we call it a rumor mill, you know, in organizations. What is the rumor mill saying? You hear it. Oh, the rumor is saying that. And then you feed it. Evil leaders do that. So, take care of your mind, body, and soul. Take care of your mind, body, and soul. Particularly your soul. I've said this before, but I want to say it to you today. Write it down. Every morning I pray these prayers, and I always tell the young people and those who have listened to me several times, write it down. Until you do it, I'll repeat it. When you wake up in the morning, you have to make sure that your soul is still, is peaceful as a leader. So what the prayer I pray says, this is the day that the Lord has made. I shall be glad and rejoice in it. Why am I praying that prayer? I want to have the joy of the Lord in my heart throughout the whole day. Because I'm going to face troubles, trials, tribulations. I'm going to take complex decisions every day of my life. If my heart is not at peace, I will have a I'll spin like a top man. So that's the first prayer. So this is the day that the Lord has made. I shall be glad and rejoice in it. The second one that I pray, I say, Lord, order my steps. Why am I asking order my steps? How do I navigate in this kind of a very complex environment where there's booby traps all over the place, where there's landmines all over the place? Where do I put my foot as I move? As I lift my foot and put it, as I make decisions, unless the Lord orders my steps, there is nothing I can do. The world is so complex. And finally, I want to repeat it again. I said it at the beginning. I say, and the third prayer says, is, let me live my purpose today. Let me live my purpose today. You can't postpone your purpose because you're young now and say, oh no, when I'm old, when I'm older, I'm over 50, like Undada Khadebe, that's when I'm going to live my purpose, It's like young people who do not want to accept Jesus Christ. And says, no, and there's a sonto, it's only for old people. No, you've got to live your purpose every day. And you've got to have a sense of historical mission. That you have a unique reason why you're here. It does not matter how you came. You may have come as an illegitimate child. You may have come as out of wedlock. You may have come as a result of rape. It does not matter. There is a reason why you are here. And you've got to fulfill that purpose. And I pray that God gives you that ability to fulfill your purpose.